Hiya, this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
So welcome back to us this week, and for those of you that listened to last week's, you know that we heard a bit about Yolanda Brooks' story of how she got herself to the place of using somatic journaling. And today is going to be a slightly different podcast, because today Yolanda is going to talk to us about somatic journaling and how it actually works, because it's not something that I had come across. And when Yolanda and I started chatting about it, I said, oh, we need to get this out here. So welcome back, Yolanda.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this again. As I say, slightly different one than normal, but tell us the difference, because a lot of us know about journaling and writing things out. What is the difference between journaling and somatic journaling?
Okay, so when I was in the pit of depression, quite a few people would say to me, why don't you journal, write stuff down? You'll feel better. When you're in that really, really bad place, I know I'm not the only person to think this, but I couldn't write it down because it was bad enough that it was in my head. I didn't want it on paper. And actually, when you're in depression or deep anxiety, and I mean deep, writing coherent sentences doesn't come very easily, because you just can't still your mind long enough. So journaling is very, very good it's conscious writing. So you start off, what's bothering you, what do you need to do, how are you feeling, but it is very conscious, it's thought oriented, it's focusing on how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and you can end up in quite a good flow where it becomes slightly subconscious, slightly unaware of what you're writing. And I know this, some people call it automatic writing, there's another name for it as well, but I can't quite remember what it is. What I noticed when I first experienced this kind of writing was that if I wrote after a deep guided meditation, and responded to a prompt, I felt that my writing was slightly less conscious. I wasn't thinking about what I was writing. So I then developed, because prompts are really good because they bring out in you what's bothering you. Subconsciously, that goes a little bit deeper. So one or two words might have a conscious meaning for you. So if somebody said to you, think about roads or clouds, the first thing you do is see a road or a cloud, and you might see them moving, or you might see feet along the road. But there's always a deeper meaning to words, because the language you have dictates how you see the world, dictates the emotions that you can identify in yourself. So for me, I realized that when someone said road or path, yes, I saw a road or a path, but instantly, if I was receptive to listening to what was in the back of my mind, it was, okay, the road behind me has been long, it has many forks, but I'm here now, and the road ahead is shorter. Which fork am I going to take? Which path? Am I going to go left or right? There's not much road left. And that got me thinking about the deeper meaning behind words, but also the deeper meaning behind my own stories. As I said to you last week, when I turned 50, I wasn't being maudlin or depressing, thinking about the fact that I didn't have much time left. It was invigorating, because it was, okay, you finally know who you are. You finally know what kind of person you want to be. Actually, you don't have much time left. What are you going to do about it? Stop wasting it. So after the deep meditations, I would start coming all these thoughts and emotions that actually I didn't always understand what at the time I was writing them, but it was when coming back to read them, I would burst into tears, or they'd stimulate a whole other train of thought, and I found that very, very therapeutic. So I started using guided meditations, but rather than prompts, I kind of use questions or half sentences and get my participants in my workshops to keep writing. And because it's not a word, it's the beginning of something, and they have to finish it and keep going on finishing it. I think it draws a lot out of the subconscious because you're not allowed to stop writing. I encourage people to, there's no stopping or correcting or looking back or, oh, that's a better word, I want to check. No, just keep going, keep going, keep going, no matter what comes out, even if it sounds to you in your sort of half attention like a load of rubbish, because you don't know what's in there. And it's only when you go back and read what you've written that the meaning can quite often jump straight out at you. So quite often you can get confirmation of something. If you're in two minds of what to do about something, you can sit and do a visualization, or you can do a meditation and write, and you can find an answer. Either your initial idea is verified by what you're writing, or it's something completely different that comes out, something unexpected.
So you run sessions,
yes,
obviously,
yeah.
And do you run them in person? Do you run them on Zoom or on video calls?
I've done in person. I think I did one online to start off with, but I've really felt in person was important. But I've written a 10-week course which I will run in person. The thing is, like you, I live in a village, but I think I will be moving it online as well, because I think it's really just much more accessible to people if it's online.
Absolutely, yes, and it's amazing. And when I'm living in Devon, and I've got a few things to come up to, actually in Nottinghamshire, and then up Manchester way, and it's amazing how much longer it takes to get to those places from Devon. So I do a lot of things online because of that. But if you're running a session, so people come in, it's a group process.
Yes.
And you run the meditation as well?
Yes, I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. So we'll come in and we'll have a discussion about why we're here. And we do some conscious journaling, because quite often people come in thinking this X problem needs sorting out, but throughout the session, yes, that could be confirmed, or you might end up talking about something completely different. So we do conscious journaling about why we're here, what we want. And sometimes, the workshops are generally 3 hours, and we don't write for 3 hours because, as women, we talk.
We have a rapport. We create the rapport.
Yes, and the discussions. I mean, the conversations we have. So the last session I had last week, just by coincidence, the thread of discussion through the whole thing was our difficult relationships. We're all sort of a certain age, sort of 50 to 60, all questioning, which I think comes with the menopause, with the physical changes, and then you're getting the life changes, and that can't help but stimulate your thought processes into sort of questioning, okay, where have I been? What have I been doing? And what's next? And I think, for us at this time, in our 50s, it's like prime, it's not a midlife crisis, it's a midlife realization that we haven't lost ourselves completely. We can still find ourselves, get back to ourselves, or get, level up if we want to. And there's something about women of our age where we have this drive, don't we, to grab life and make the most of it.
I think there's an element of pressure, isn't there? Because if you think about, I look at them as reviews of life, and I think as women, because I'm coming from the place of experiencing it as a woman, that I probably had a review in my teens, and I probably had a review in my 30s. I definitely know that I had a review in my 40s, and the one is definitely with more pressure behind it, because you, as you say, you start thinking, oh, and actually for me it wasn't even sort of the rest of my life, it was the rest of my working life.
Yes,
How
working.
much longer do I want to work for? How much longer will I work for? What do I want to do? Am
Mm,
I going to accept the fact that actually I'm going to work in something that I don't really want to do?
mm,
You know, answering all of those questions. So for me, it was a bit like a review, and I
mm,
agree. I think when you get into your 50s, but you know, I've reviewed sort of several times over the life that when
mm,
you get into the 50s, the questions are different because there is
mm.
an element of pressure. Oh,
Yes,
do it now.
I
You
think
know,
we all
when in your
do this.
30s, you go, oh, I can do it. Yeah, you know, there's plenty
Yes,
of time. You know, whereas when you get to your 50s, there's an
yeah,
element of, oh, really need to do that now.
yes. I think
So
every
when that
decade,
change.
yes, every decade brings that sort of, you know, your 30th and your 40th, you think, oh God, you know, what's going on? And you do review and think, but as you say, it doesn't, it feels different, doesn't it, at this time of
This one
life?
does. And it's a really I can think back to conversations with, you know, older ladies who are my age, you know, when I was younger, and I was just like, oh, I don't really understand what you're talking about, because it isn't something you can necessarily understand until
Yeah,
you get here.
yeah,
But the benefit of being here, and you know, if somebody's in the space to hear it, is the fact that actually look at it from when you're younger and do the things that you want to do then. Don't think you've
yeah.
got loads of time, because actually there might be more stuff you want to do, you know.
Mm,
The questions and the reviews are different now. They are
mm,
different now
mm.
because,
And
you know,
I think, you know, I think as well, you know, if you are on that in that place where you are starting to understand who you are a bit more, and as we said last time about, you know, where your boundaries lie, what your identity really is, there is no more coasting. This next 10-20 years, for me, I want to pack in as much as possible before, you know, the inevitable body slows. You know, it slows down now, doesn't it? We
yeah,
feel it at this age.
yes,
When you get
in your 50s, you notice you can't do things that you used to be
yeah,
able to do. That
yeah,
started at the beginning of my 50s. It's like, oh, okay,
yeah, yeah.
and,
At
and
40,
that
you think, oh,
helps
this,
you.
yeah. At 40, you think, oh, my eyesight's not quite as sharp as it used to be. And then at 50, it's like, well, this is happening, that's happening, this doesn't work. And I think you do very, very much become aware of your own mortality. But it's not just the mortality, it's the fact that you could live to be 90. But the last 20 years might not be so good. So the next 10 or 20 is the time to pack it in, all the fun, all the adventure, try things. And it's really interesting as well, this up leveling confidence, whether that comes with the mortality awareness that you think, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
It's a really, because what was going through my mind, the fear goes, you know, because actually, you know, you just said an up leveling confidence. For me, that it's the same thing, but you know,
Yes,
the fear now is you know, of especially the fears around what will other people think, you know.
yeah,
Oh, I'm supposed
absolutely.
to do it this way. Oh, I'm breaking away and doing. Will that mean that nobody? All of that stuff just
Yeah,
isn't really around
yeah,
much anymore. Occasionally, it sneaks in.
yeah,
Really, now it's just kind of like, okay, well, you do you and let me do me, because I haven't got the energy to,
yeah.
you know. And
I,
so that's changed. I can now do things that I would
yeah.
never have considered doing before.
I think for me, I had to work on that because they were wrapped very much around my childhood issues, the stuff that I'd carried all my life. That through sort of being more consciously aware, writing about them, because I'd you know, I always used to say, oh, this person, you know, said this, and it makes me feel this way. But there's something different about writing it in your own way, in words. For me, I just found it so therapeutic, and actually then seeing in black and white what my subconscious wanted to say to me. It's not what I'm thinking, because my thinking is all conscious. It's what my subconscious has been trying to, because we know that trauma goes in subconsciously. There's no amount of conscious thinking will release it. There's no amount of, you know, self-care in respect of haircuts, massages, sound baths will get rid of trauma if you're not doing it from the deeper level, because it is subconscious. Gets in subconscious, has to come out subconsciously. And for people who struggle writing is one way of doing it, because it's the somatic part is during the deeper meditation, you're shutting off your conscious mind. You're quietening that analytic, critical voice, disconnecting it, and the words that come out are the ones. For me, it comes from here. It comes from behind the right hand side of my head, and it comes through into my head, down into my shoulder, and out through my arm. Which sounds mad, I know, but that is literally how it felt when I sat here and wrote. It was as though something was coming from the back of my head through my body and out into the paper, which is why I think when I was writing it, although I'm in flow, there would be times where I'd think, what am I writing here? Because I didn't understand what I was writing, because I wasn't fully aware of it. I was sort of half dazed. It didn't seem to make any sense, but it was when I came back to read it that I would just burst into tears, because it was just like, oh my God, that's just so, everything coming out in black and white. That's what I've been hanging on to.
And when your subconscious is free to let you know stuff, it's freeing for yourself once you know that, isn't it? Because it starts making things make sense.
Yes, everything starts to make sense. Why, you know, I did a piece of writing. I would read it. I'd have a cry. I'd look at it and think, well, that's about this person. That's about how I feel about me. This bit is how they're connected. And I don't know why, but a lot of mine came out as poetry, not rhyming poetry, but, you know, short. Some people can write reams and reams. I write short, beginning, middle, end poetry, which was quite a shock, because I've not written a poem since I was 11. But I know I used to love writing poetry when I was a kid. I used to love reading poetry when I was a kid. I used to love the rhyme and the rhythm. But then as you grow up, you stop doing all that sort of creative stuff, because you have to get on with work. So maybe for me that was my connection to my child, was the poetry, and it helped me express. And I think also it helped me express what I wanted to, rather than rambling on and on and on, which could easily happen. For me, it enabled me to express, because I'm quite a logical, to the point kind of person. I'm a very analytical person. It just allowed me to express what I wanted in lines. This is this is that, this is the other. But it was still highly emotional. And it was really interesting that my logical brain was still there. The sort of no nonsense, get to the point me was still there. But I was able to express it in a way that let me get the emotion out through tears, mostly tears, you know, and I mean sobbing tears, not just a few little ones, but like blubbering, snotty tears, which is quite a revelation.
And actually, it's quite if you've got that sort of trauma inside you, actually it's a very good relief as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I have done something. I'm not sure that it was somatic journaling, but something quite similar. And I can tell you, I'm a rambler, and because I'm not a writer, I'm not somebody that sits and writes things out in any great way. It was a revelation to me when, you know, we've meditated and come, and it was a revelation to me, because I thought, oh, what am I going to write? You know, because you're given the instruction beforehand. What am I going to write? Oh, I don't know what I'm going to write. I don't know. You meditate and you come out, and I was given a prompt. Write about this, and actually, for the first maybe 3 or 4 words, it was about that, and then it just went off to the place there where I needed to go. And it was like watching my hand do something that I'm thinking of, whose hand's that, you know. And as you say, reading it back is very emotional. And because I've never written things down like in a diary. You know, we talked a little bit about this last week, in the fact that if you write it down, it makes it real. It also means that it's there for other people to read. And you know, that was a really scary thing for me, because, you know, I didn't want people to know what was going on in my head, because I was already being told that I was wrong and I was difficult and I was all sorts of negative words. And I didn't want people to have my thought processes down. So actually doing this and having it written down now was a real revelation to me. So that's why when we had the conversation, I was like, oh, I need more of this, because I'm not a writer, but actually when my subconscious is allowed, it brings all sorts of things out.
Well, this is the problem with conscious life, isn't it? We're told what we can and can't do, what is and isn't acceptable. In school, you're 4 years old, you're running around in a playground, building, creating, drawing, making. You turn 5 and you sit in a chair for the next how many years?
Yeah.
It's no wonder our creativity is stifled. It's no wonder we have no connection to it and we don't understand the power of it. And that's why we think we're not writers. I didn't write anything for decades. After uni, I didn't write anything. Everything's on a computer, or, the last 7 years, I didn't do any writing in my work. And I had, and after this, I had 3 months of wrist ache and thought, oh God, I'm going to get carpal tunnel now. But it just reconnects you with what's really, really inside. And I think, I would say for the vast majority of us living a Western life, we are so disconnected from who we are, disconnected from our body, disconnected from the way our mind works, disconnected from our own emotions, that to find a way that lets your body help you process your emotions, for me, it was magic. It made such a difference.
And this is why I wanted to talk to you more, because of the fact that I firmly believe that. I firmly believe that actually we have the answers to everything that we need to know within inside ourselves, but we're just so disconnected.
Yes.
And the work I do, and I'm sure the work that you do, allows people to reconnect with what's back there in the subconscious, who they are, where they are, the boundaries they want. It gives that space for that to happen. But it's just that fascinating way of doing it through the meditation and then the journaling in that process. Because so often in our world, holistically, we have people who are right, okay, you meditate and there's no connection then to the journaling.
No.
And so to connect the two together, when you've meditated and you are in that space of where you are really connected to what's going on in your mind, that's the place to let it all out. It makes so much sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and quite often, we go to a meditation class and it's you meditate, then you wake up and you go home.
Yeah.
Well, for most people, that's where the brain goes, okay, back to normal life. Forget everything you've just experienced. So finding a way to then let out some of what came through so you can process it later if you have to. I teach mindfulness and meditation. I don't necessarily have classes where people come and do a meditation with me. I teach people how to do it for themselves, all the different ways, not just lying on your bed for 20 minutes, empty mind going on. That's not meditation, that's torture. Because for most of us, when I was first told to meditate, every time I tried, my anxiety would go through the roof because it was just panic at all this noise in my head. What I don't know what to do. It's not going quiet. I'm rubbish. But back down that spiral.
So it feeds into all of the stuff that you're actually trying to work out. Yes,
exactly. But you can meditate for 10 seconds and it does just as good a job if you're aware of which kind of meditation works for you.
See, I will say that actually I often meditate in a car journey.
Yes, you zone out
on my own.
Yes.
I mean, I'm obviously still conscious and I'm still driving and I'm still safe. Let's just state that. But that is the moment where actually I can zone into my brain and ask myself questions and work out where things, and it is my subconscious stuff, things I'm very aware it's my because sometimes I go, wow, didn't know that. And I'm having a whole conversation with myself in the car often, because things come out, and I've had to stop the car before now to write things down.
Wow.
Because that's the thing I love to do, is I love to have it needs to be over 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It just needs to be that little bit longer to get me into the zone. So because the first 20 minutes of it is getting out of the little lanes down here, and I'm very much more aware, getting onto a motorway and off we go.
Yes.
And that often allows me to just zone into that. So that's the way I people say, oh, that's not meditation, and I think, okay, not yours, but it's mine.
No, yes, exactly. This is it. There are so many ways to do it, and once you've identified which ways work for you, you can switch into them in a second. Once I'm in my car, that's it. I go. And like you know, you're safe because you're kind of on autopilot. You're still aware of your surroundings. You still know what your feet, hands and feet are doing.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, gardening for me, as soon as my gardening boots are on, that's it. My mind stops. And the things that come in, the realizations, you know, I can be doing something, and I would literally stand up bolt straight and go, that's why that upset me when I was 12 years old. And now I understand it, and then I can let it go.
Yeah.
And that's a meditation for me, you know, being outside, birds, sounds. Because I recently did a three session Sunday series of how to be mindful in your everyday without having to find more time. So it's about how you're mindful with the outside world, how you're mindful with the inside world, and then different ways to meditate, and the difference between mindfulness and meditation, how you can switch between the two to create such a calm space in your head. But going back to what we talked about last week, that was also key for me, was living in the present. I mentioned the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I recommend it to everybody because I had that on my bookshelf for nearly 30 years and refused to read it because I wasn't in the right headspace. I was angry, I was this, that, and the other, highly emotional, depressed, anxious. But when I listened to it, everything he said made sense. And from that moment, I was able to live now. I don't ever worry about the past anymore. I worry about the future once a week, twice a week, and then go, enough of that stress. This is where you are. This is where you live. What can you do now? But between the mindfulness meditation and the writing, the somatic writing, I can honestly say that in 3 years, I have been angry once.
Wow.
And to me, that's like, I used to be angry every day. I was the angry teenager, the angry young woman. You know, I was that person. And now I can get little bit irritable and annoyed, but it's gone. And I think I've had one temper tantrum in 3 years.
That is interesting, isn't it? Because when you start working with your subconscious and when you start looking at who you are and asking yourself the questions, whether it's true, you know, because there's a lot of stuff that's in our minds that actually really isn't true. But we've got there, it's come from conditioning or, you know, what we have to do and all those sorts of things. When you start recognizing those sorts of things, the strong emotions aren't necessarily always there anymore, because I've just done, when you said that, I thought, oh well, yeah, when was the last time I was angry? Irritated, frustrated, fed up, yes, on a low level, not angry. I can't think of angry.
But what you just said there, you know, it's the things we tell ourselves. You know, every emotional reaction is a memory trace of something in the past, and we carry all these bits, all these stories. This is the thing, we're carrying stories about who we are, and they're heavy, you know,
and we repeat them regularly,
and we repeat them, and every time you repeat them, yes, they get stronger and stronger, and this is who I am because my history tells me so. But if you recognize, well, yes, I was angry, I felt anger at that point, and that reinforced that anger, and this made me angry, but they've gone now. You know, and it is a practice. That's why yoga, meditation, it's all called practice, because it's every day until it becomes as commonplace as walking. And
it's the, you know, I talk a lot when I have people saying to me, oh, you know, I don't have time for that, and we talk about habit stacking, doing it. So you know, do your meditation if it works for you whilst you're washing up. You know, do in those times in the shower. You know, it's time and space where you're already doing something else, you know, and use your mind to do this.
That's exactly, that's exactly
commonplace, isn't it?
Yes, meditation can be, you hear a bird and you do nothing but let that sound land in your ear. Nothing, no thinking, no judging, no questioning, no worrying, nothing, just listen. 3 seconds, that's meditation. And then the next time it's 5 seconds, then it's 10 seconds. I did get to the point once where I could sit for 20 minutes with no thought, but it was listening to a particular piece of music that I find incredibly calming. I've not done it since. I can get up to about 10 minutes, but at least I know I can if I really want to. So I can switch it on. I can switch it on in an instant, no matter what's happening, because I've practiced it again and again and again. And it's part of normal life. Sometimes I don't even know I'm doing it. you know, and that's the whole point of being aware of yourself, is the awareness you have of yourself, your own emotions, your own reactions, changing those reactions into responses that you know, the word responsibility, we think it's negative. It's the ability to respond, not react. And that is presence, and that makes life so much easier, because you're not always going, I wish this and what if that. It's always, this is the truth. What's next? I'm going to respond to what's happening to me. And like you said before, without the emotional attachment of all your history and all your fear of the future, your decisions just become so much clearer. So those stories you carry that you're telling yourself, letting go of all those versions of you, all those little stories that you're carrying around in your pockets, you can just spill them all out onto the paper, and everybody will find a different thing that works for them. I never thought writing would work for me. I was flabbergasted that writing would be my thing. Turns out it is, you know, so give everything a go, because everything's worth a try.
And that is it's a choice you can make, isn't it? You're the only person that stops yourself from doing anything.
Yes.
And it, you know, I've just written a social media post because I'm working on happiness for this month that we're in at the moment. And, you know, it's a choice. It's a choice. And you get to choose them.
I remember as a kid, my father always used to say, no such word as can't. And but he'd never explain it to us. And we go, of course there is, it's in the dictionary.
I mean, I always with my children, I would say to them, take the T off of can't and see what you can do.
Yeah.
You know, because the worst case scenario is that you fall over and make a bit of a fool of yourself, and then you pick yourself up and you go on forward. And but again, I say that with the fact that I sit in my 50s and kind of go, oh well,
whatever.
You know, you know, sit in my 50s making videos to go out to all and sundry on the internet and think that, oh, maybe I should cut this and maybe I should do this, and then going, oh no, I can't be doing that. If I'm known as the mad woman that's got funny faces as we start the video, I really don't mind, you know. So it is just a matter of getting to know yourself and being who you are.
Yeah, and it's letting go of all those stories, refinding your true identity, which is buried in your childhood. And you know, the fear thing, I've started doing lives, and I do find them scary, but once I start, I'm kind of okay. You know, so the fear is there, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I'll be dead in 30 years, and who's going to know? Who's going to know? No one cares.
And the really interesting thing is, at the end of the day, you're not that important that anybody else is going to worry about you doing a live.
No.
That's the reality. You have stuff to share, but you know, the whole world isn't going to sit down and go, oh, Jenny did that live.
Yeah, look at her hair.
You're not that important. You know, you're important to you.
Yeah.
So if you look at it with authenticity, it's fine.
Yeah. If you look at other people, you're worrying about what they think of you. What makes you think they're not worrying about what you think of them? Everybody's in their own head. Everybody. You know, so it's good to recognize that everybody's in their own head, but actually it's nice to get out of yours and just experience bird song and dappled sunlight and peeing down rain like we have today. In the fullness of its joy, because you're alive. Yeah.
I have all of these pictures of sky in my phone photo album. And, you know, I just look and I think, how amazing is that? Look how that is. Because I sit there in the evening going, wow, look at that one. And wow, you know, and it could be grey sky. It can be, you know, but it's all sky. And the ability to just look at that and see it for what it is and enjoy
and the fact that human beings love clouds and love sunsets and love flowers, you know, it is hard to recognize it when you're in deep depression, but human beings need nature. Deep down we know that the natural world, the natural order is the only real thing there is.
And it releases all the good chemicals in us by actually connecting with
for a reason, though. We're biologically wired to feel like that in nature, because that's how we're supposed to live. So we're so disconnected from nature, but we're also disconnected from our own nature, and getting back to that is how you free yourself.
Yolanda, it's been amazing chatting with you. Thank you so much. And we will put down all of Yolanda's contact details and the ways to find out about Yolanda down below as per normal. But also Yolanda's coming into the Just Being Me Facebook group, the free Facebook group, to come and do a session on her somatic journeying. So have a look out for that one. Come over and join the group, and we'll catch up with you all very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be able to create a better conversation with yourself, but just don't know where to start? I offer a free 20-minute session to see where you want to be and how to get you there. Just click on the link below. Remember, it's free. Book your space. It could change your life. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.